Broadcasting from the Business RadioX studio in Alpharetta, it's time for ProfitSense with Bill McDermott.
Good morning. Welcome to ProfitSense. This podcast dives into the stories behind some of Atlanta's successful businesses and business owners and the professionals that advise them. We help local business leaders get the word out about the important work they're doing to serve their market, their community, and their profession. I'm your host, Bill McDermott, and this show is presented by the Profitability Coach. When business owners want to increase their profitability, they don't have the expertise often to know where to start or what to do. I leverage my knowledge and relationships from 32 years in banking to identify the hurdles getting in the way and create a plan to deliver profitability they never thought possible. We have two great guests on the show today, and I want to welcome them both. First, Sharon Foley with the Interior Studios. Sharon, welcome to ProfitSense.
Good morning, Bill.
And also Andrew Henry with Child's Company. Andrew, welcome.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
So, Sharon, we're going to start with you. You started the Interior Studios department at Foley Design, which led to Interior Studios, LLC, becoming its own entity, allowing for more targeted marketing of interior design services. And I know currently the Interior Studios provides both design and procurement services to clients and end users. But I guess on a more personal note, coincidentally, we're relocating my mother to an assisted living facility here in the Atlanta area. And I have come to find out that the architectural design and the interior was done by Foley Design, as well as Interior Studios had done the interior. So I really want to kind of start there. Can you talk a little bit about how you brought that beautiful architectural design and inspiration of that building to the inside when you do an interior? Because I toured the location recently, and it's beautiful.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. I'm happy to talk about that. We on the interior design side are fortunate, extremely fortunate, to have the association with the architectural firm. The collaboration of the design efforts that we are allowed to be a part of is extremely fulfilling, and I like to think provides a more cohesive experience for the end user. And the facility that your mother's moving into, I'm thrilled to hear that, is a beautiful campus facility. Senior living as a project type is one of the avenues of design that we specialize in. We've done senior living design first as an interior design department at Foley Design Associates, but also as an independent company for 30 years with Foley Design Associates. We have clients and design projects that run the gamut of senior living design, from affordable senior apartments with tax credit or HUD funding to the big campus projects that have independent living, whether they're apartments or condominium, healthcare and assisted living and skilled care on the same campus, and then pretty much everything in between. I have clients that own and manage and develop and operate skilled nursing facilities, nursing homes all over the Southeast. So that's something of a niche in the senior living market for us. But to your point, we start with the number one. We listen to our clients, which is paramount. And we try to bring their vision to reality. So we start by really listening, and then From an interior design standpoint, we look to the architecture to set the design cues in terms of character and quality and materials and so forth. And the end result is that we want the experience when you drive up to a facility, you walk in the front door, you look at the outside of the building, you walk in the front door, and you experience the inside of the building. We want that experience to be as seamless as possible in terms of character and quality. And so that collaboration with architecture is the key to that end result. And that's exactly what happened at the facility that you're referring to, and on all of our projects. It's a real joy to work in a team environment with architects and with our coworkers and interiors, and it's reflected, I think, in our projects. And the other sort of component of interiors that's extremely important for the way the project looks and functions is furnishings. A lot of times that becomes an afterthought. An owner gets involved and does that independently. And we provide not only furnishings design, but also procurement services. So it really is a fully thought through and followed through process to achieve the level of design that we want to provide for our clients.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about collaboration, not only collaboration with Foley Architectural, but also collaboration with your clients as well, because I know after a project is complete, you go back and talk to the users of the interior that you've completed for lessons learned, things that went very well, things that you might have done differently. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Certainly. The client is part of the team from the get-go and throughout the construction process, as is the construction group itself. And we do involve the client throughout the process, and the lessons learned part is a really important component. We learn every day, and we are generalists. We can't be experts in every small detail, but we try. So the idea that you go back to the management team, that's the other component that I can't overstate the importance of, is the operational and management team, because they have the day-to-day information of how the residents are feeling and how the staff is feeling. That really is informative on the design level. So the sort of post-mortem, we call it, of going back to the facility and talking to the owners and operators and residents to see how things are going, what could be improved, what lessons can we learn for next time, it is a real important component of the follow-through.
We're talking this morning with Sharon Foley, who's the Director of Interior Design at the Interior Studio, LLC. A major market segment for the Interior Studio is senior living design, from affordable senior apartments to continuing care retirement communities, including skilled nursing, assisted living, memory support. And of course, you talked about those briefly, Sharon. So I want to talk a little bit about the trends in interior design, specifically in senior living, aspects of making it less institutional and more home-like and therapeutic, maybe even sprinkling in some thoughts on technology advances, lighting controls, and the science of it all.
Certainly. So one of the trends that has been in the market for several decades, really, is that move away from an institutional setting to a more home-like setting. Now, the caveat, of course, is that you design, you facilitate the movement and the living conditions of the age group. So there are certain things that you need to do to make them comfortable and to make the interiors work for them. But the inclusion of a more home-like visual environment is really key. So we can talk about how spaces are scaled, giant, high ceiling spaces are not often, as comfortable as more intimate spaces. We can talk about how, as people move into these facilities and live out their lives there, they really are using the same activity spaces, the same dining rooms, the same lobby areas and common areas on a daily basis. So one of the things we try to do, and we try to work with the owners to provide, are destinations within the facilities that provide places to go that are different, that provide some variety for the folks that are living. So, for instance, instead of one huge dining room, we might have 3 or 4 smaller dining venues that have different character. And then if a resident wants to sit in the same chair in the same dining room with the same people on a daily basis, that option certainly is there, but they also have the option to sort of break up that experience. And then from a trend standpoint, technology really is something that we have to stay on top of. It's moving practically every day, and the advancements are amazing. And we try to incorporate as much of that as is feasible from a budget standpoint. And one of the most interesting ones for seniors is is lighting controls, which is not a new technology, but the idea that you facilitate the natural circadian rhythm that people experience on a daily basis, the arc of sunrise to sunset, and how that affects the color of the light and so forth. And then you control the lighting within the facility to help that, because there's scientific studies that really highlight how spending so much time indoors, especially in a skilled care environment where you really are confined just physically by your own physical limitations, that your circadian rhythm really is affected. So that's one of the interesting things that has come on the market. And then, old concepts are still good. Daylighting and circulation, wayfinding, and those sorts of things they're excellent concepts. They're not new, but they're certainly tried and true. And we try to provide as much of that still in our senior facilities as we can.
So there's really an art and a science to it all. So I'm interested, Sharon. Interior Studio has really carved out a niche in senior living, as you mentioned earlier, in partnership with Foley Design. The two firms are really passionate about it and really good at it. So I'm curious, how did that niche come about?
We started working in senior living. Actually, Bill, I'll have to give Bill some credit. My husband, Bill Foley, and the president of our firm worked in senior living with my dad. This is a family story. In about 1982 or 3, and it didn't last very long. But there was a little company that was a family business, and my dad was an architect. I have a brother who's an architect, and their niche was really affordable senior housing with HUD funding. And my dad did that type of housing in Alabama for his entire career. And when Bill joined the firm for a short period of time, then he became familiar with that project type and equally passionate about it. And then he brought that project type then to the firm that he eventually became a partner in, and then of course to Foley Design. So it is it's a long running interest on all our parts in working with that particular segment, and the gratification of improving those environments for either folks that are seniors and are looking for an affordable solution, or our seniors and are moving into a clinical situation, is a pretty amazing feeling to walk in and see the impact that you've had on the lives of people in that age group. And I think that's the real passion, if you will, to that really keeps us so involved in that particular project segment.
Yeah, that is a great story. I did not know that story. So your father was an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Bill is an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And you've been an entrepreneur for part of your professional journey. So what's that journey been like for you? Share maybe some of the high points and maybe some of the challenges too.
Well, it has been a journey. I'm again very fortunate to have had the experience that I've had with Bill Foley and the architecture side of the firm. There was always an immense level of support for interior design as we had the experience together for so long as a department of Foley Design, and then as we separated the companies in 2017. The idea really was to open up opportunities to market our firm to other architects, other end users, and to create what is known as a woman-owned business entity. So we are majority woman-owned business, and that is a criteria that can sort of get us in the door to certain project types. And we work with other architects, and there is a comfort level, I think, when you come in as an interior design consultant to be a separate entity from another architecture firm. So you can kind of read between the lines that it was a little bit easier sell when we didn't have an architecture firm, that we were embedded in. So it's been a journey. I am a designer by profession and certainly by skill set. I am not a business person by skill set. So the challenges for me have been on the business side. I love the leadership role that I have, but I'm sort of as I like to say, I'm sort of a worker bee. And so I don't just direct other people to do things. I do things. And the business side is the toughest part for me. That's not my best skill set. I have learned a lot. But basic business management, cash flow, billing, all of that stuff, that's a little bit of a challenge for me. So I have learned to trust some other better business professionals to help out on that. But that's sort of the high points and the tough side of the entrepreneur, business owner, situation.
Well, and here's the beauty of that. If someone were to come to me and say, Bill, I would really like for you to do this interior design, I would first panic and then I would call you. The flip side of that is if you struggle in business management, then people that struggle in business management, if that didn't exist, Sharon, I wouldn't have a job. So us left brainers and you right brainers, we can make a good team together. So
absolutely.
That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, I think we all have to play to each other's strengths and do our best, but it certainly is. I know who to call. Let me put it that way about business.
Absolutely. So there is so much going on in design, both in architecture and in interiors. I am confident that we might have some listeners that are in the middle of design or contemplating a design. So what's the best way for them to get in touch with you so that you can talk to them about their projects?
Well, it really just we're sort of old school phone and email folks, and I'm sort of an email advocate, and so for me, that's the communication methodology that works the best for me personally, and that's Sharon Foley at foleydesign.com. And you can tell that we used to be a department of Foley Design because our email is still stuck on that side. But that's the best way. We do have a website. It's www.theinteriorsstudio, and the word interiors has an S.com. It has some contact information. And then on the architecture side, the same. There's a website, foleydesign.com. That's a good way to contact. But love to talk to folks that are looking for, small advice, little bits and pieces of how do I go about this, or larger projects. We are very happy to invite new clients into our shop. I will say that we have a very low marketing budget. And the main reason is that most of our work is word of mouth from clients, or it's repeat work from clients. So there's a correlation between doing a good job and getting the next job. And that's our philosophy. And, but does not preclude, answering the phone. So we're, happy to talk to folks that, have a project in mind for sure.
Well, this has been a great time spent with you, Sharon. Thank you for coming on ProfitSense and sharing your story. It's been a delight.
Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me.
And now we're going to switch over to Andrew Henry. Andrew is with Child's Company, he's a partner there. And so, Andrew, could you tell our audience a little bit about what you do, who you do it for, and why you do it?
Sure. Yeah. And Sharon, I just wanted to say thanks for sharing everything that you did. I'm in the middle of a home move. I don't know if you do projects that small, but seems like you're a little bit on the bigger end. But
we
wonderful.
don't do thank you. We don't do a lot of residential work.
Yeah.
But, that's the ultimate compliment. I get that quite often in facilities when I'm touring is, I want you to work on my house. I said,
Right.
I can't do that, but that's a real big compliment. Well, I look forward to hearing about you too, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bill, to answer your question, a little bit of background on me. Born and raised in Georgia, went to the University of Georgia where I got my master's in accounting and CPA before I started working for Ernst & Young. So I'm a Georgia boy through and through. And, I worked for EY for a couple of years. And for the last 7.5 years, I've worked with my business partner, Matt Child's Company, to build a boutique wealth management firm advising mostly business owners and affluent people with complex circumstances on reaching financial independence is a nice little buzzword right now. And we really help these business owners integrate their personal and business plans. A lot of times we see entrepreneurs are so focused on their business, which is a good thing, right? I mean, you need to grow your business, that their personal finances somewhat take a back seat, and they might not be maximizing their full potential on their balance sheet. So that's what we do.
Well, and so in that, dealing with business owners myself, I actually have seen a lot of business owners that have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into their business, haven't taken much money out. It's all been reinvested in the business. But all of a sudden, the business hits scale. And then all of a sudden, the profits and the distributions become large. And so sometimes it's a challenge for them to not only handle their personal financial planning, but also their professional planning as well. And you have the ability to integrate the two. So I'd really love for you to talk about the integration of the personal and professional plans for business owners. And maybe even you have a story of someone that you help them integrate their plans.
Sure. Yeah. And Bill, to your point, a lot of times the entrepreneurs and business owners don't have the time to necessarily see the whole picture. And that's not a bad thing. You're focused on your business. You need to grow your business. You need somebody else to maybe bring in some other opportunities or shed some light on circumstances and possibilities for yourself personally, as well as your business. So yeah, that's what we do. And that's, in terms of integrating plans, one example, we look at retirement planning for not only the business, but the owner themselves. Obviously, if they're looking to exit or transition the business, there are many possibilities there, which I think we'll get into later. One particular instance that I can think of where we've integrated plans is we had a client who was a business owner and was looking to make a transition with his business. And as you well know, Bill, there are obviously a lot of different options. So we discussed different options with him, and he decided that the best for him and his company was to sell the company to its employees through an ESOP plan. So employee stock ownership plan, right? Which is technically a qualified plan that can be used not only as a business transition tool, but also as an employee ownership vehicle. And that owner hired a firm that specialized in ESOPs, who then successfully facilitated the liquidity event, while at the same time keeping the owners involved in the business during their transition to the next generation. And so, I personally think that example is a great one that shows that you have to plan for your business, but also it impacts your personal finances. And so, for this one, we saw a pending liquidity event, and we were able to plan with this client before the transaction occurred on how to allocate resources once that windfall occurred. And I just think that's a great solution of where, we found a way not only to provide for the future of the business, but also on a personal level in regards to their, financial plan and retirement plan.
We're talking today with Andrew Henry, who's a partner at Child's Company. Andrew is a CPA and a certified financial planner. He focuses on the firm's strategic growth through business development and client satisfaction. Andrew's also responsible for leading the financial planning and business retirement plan advisory practice at Child's Company. And Andrew, I'd like to shift the conversation to retirement planning. So retirement planning can be confusing. There are catch-up provisions based on age and also qualified and non-qualified plans. Can you talk a little bit about how a business owner can maximize their retirement planning and how you help?
Absolutely. They're just like with the exit strategies. With business owners, there's always different options. There's never a cookie cutter answer. It always depends on their set of circumstances, their goals, their structure, their size, and retirement planning is no different. And the ability to defer income is an important facet of a financial plan. And so we take clients through various possibilities from retirement planning. And, for example, qualified plans include simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, traditional IRAs, solo 401ks, cash balance plans, just to name a few. And we evaluate the maximum deferral possible and discuss with each owner. So, contribution limits for owners can reach close to or over $60,000 in a lot of these plans. And with the cash balance plan, as I mentioned earlier, depending on how old you are and the annual income, it could be a couple $100,000. And so we like to, like I mentioned earlier, make the balance sheet the most efficient by maximizing the potential of retirement plans as well as other vehicles. In related to integration of personal and business, we actually help manage corporate 401k plans as well, Bill. So for several clients who've had a 401k plan that they started maybe when the company was smaller, maybe used their payroll provider as their TPA, and they've grown, we've seen that they necessarily haven't changed their 401k plan to grow with them. And so we're able to evaluate the 401k plan through a benchmarking tool, which I'd recommend every owner do about every 3 years, and just to see if they're using the best technology, the best fund lineup, the positions included therein, and then the fees are in line with industry standards. So we see a lot of times now, once the company gets to a certain stage, there's big companies like Principal and Fidelity that do bundled approaches, right? Rather than having a different TPA and a record holder and custodian, et cetera. And we're able to help manage the finances of that plan. And we meet with the plan committee, which helps the business owner themselves plan for not only the personal, but for their business needs for the retirement planning. So that's one thing that we add value on and do for our clients. And then, there are non-qualified plans out there too, which you mentioned can be somewhat confusing. It's just a way that, executives can be offered the ability to defer income into further years. And depending on, again, the business and their goals, we discuss those options and then play kind of intermediary between them and another party that's can structure the plan for them. And we can manage the assets inside the plan.
Sure. And so thank you for kind of taking us through what can be a confusing topic and adding some clarity. So you've probably seen some really good liquidity events for business owners and some that were not so good. Can you speak to some lessons learned so the business owner audience that's listening can have a successful exit when they exit themselves?
Yep. With transitions, it's always a challenge to fully understand all the options out there. And, I already talked about one, the ESOP plan, right? That was a very successful exit. We had another client that hired an investment banker to identify the best buyer, right? And they negotiated the best price and terms and resulted in a successful sale to a private equity firm. Yet another client said, you know what, I don't really want to go through that auction process. And they sold to a strategic acquirer whom he was familiar with. And so that also resulted in a successful liquidity event. Around all of these transitions and transactions, the biggest mistake that we see is that the owners don't have or run a full-blown process where all the options are on the table. Maybe they've heard from a friend or different advisor that this is the way to go, and so they've got their mind made up. But in reality, they've built this business over 20, 30 plus years, have a lot of, as you mentioned, blood, sweat, and tears poured into this. You want to make sure you maximize it, right? And so while it might be a lot of work getting your finances in order, hiring somebody, which could be very expensive, but at the end of the day, totally worth it if they're going to maximize the value of your company. And so if it's one lesson that I would take away, Bill, is to really utilize advisors during the process, even though there may be a fee and it could be a lot of work on your end getting the business ready to be sold. I think that ultimately shows and you see a whole lot more value there.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It really does take a village, and you're spot on. Having that team to work with is so critical. Succession planning to that point is a hot topic right now as the baby boomer generation is retiring and exiting their businesses. So talk a little bit about your process of helping the business owner invest that liquidity and then help them maximize it when they exit.
Sure. Yeah. So, ideally we'd like to engage with the owner several years before an exit. We like to have that foundation of built up trust and relationship, fully understand their business and where it could go. Again, we're not investment bankers, but we've got some experience. My partner, Matt Childs, right, was the CFO and a partner in the business for 20 years before he started this business. And so we've got some experience with, and they end up selling a business to a private equity firm. So we've got some experience with exits. And then once, obviously the liquidity event occurs, we want to look at their entire balance sheet. As a CPA, as a recovering CPA, as I like to call it, no longer practicing accountant, but still maintain the CPA. We like to look at the entire balance sheet. It's not just about investments. It's not just about your brokerage account per se. You've got your business. You've got potentially other real estate or private investments on there as well. residential real estate that you need to consider. And, we help look at the entire balance sheet in order to make it the most efficient and maximize it. I know I've said that over and over, but that's really what we do and how we help, our clients. We like to look through, the various things, other than the investments, just because we know that those have just as much, if not more, impact on the client's financial plan.
So if someone wants to get in touch with you regarding either wealth management or helping them plan for their business exit and liquidity event, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you, Andrew?
Well, just like Sharon, we love a good phone call or an email. You can find us at childscompany.com, CHILDS company.com. And my email is ahenry@childscompany.com. You'll find all our contact information there. Check us out on LinkedIn. And we've got some good information on our website that includes not only our info, but some resources from a retirement or business planning standpoint.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on ProfitSense and sharing your expertise and your experience. This is a critical topic for business owners, and you really provided some great clarity.
Thanks, Bill. I really enjoyed it.
So I've had some business owner conversations recently. Businesses are expanding. People are looking to add talent. And that really brings up the topic with business owners about delegation and when to add people. Many business owners struggle with delegation. We almost cringe just hearing the word. But really, without delegating tasks, people start to burn out and are unintentionally limiting their full potential. They can become the choke point of their own business. It's interesting that only 1% of businesses start to climb over 10 million in revenue. The number one reason for not making that climb is lack of delegation. Many business owners think I have to do this myself in order to get it done. But the reality is they should think that it's ridiculous that I'm doing this. Who's really skilled at doing this so I can delegate it to them? Once a business owner starts to think that others can do tasks better than they can and delegates them, they experience a breath of fresh air, become more confident, and have more clarity of thought because they've taken their weaknesses and delegated them to their coworkers' strengths. To be sure you're delegating it to the right person, you have to be sure that they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. In these conversations, I've had some interesting comments from clients and prospective clients. They've said, Bill, this is not just true for owners of businesses, but also for managers within a business. Another person told me, I just had this conversation yesterday with an industry peer asking me about this very issue. It's so important to decide early in your business if you want to design for growth or design for a specific size. There's not a right answer for every business or business owner, but the answer to the question does determine your hiring and people strategy. So to kind of wrap this up, failing to delegate, you don't really provide opportunities for your team to learn and lead. Leaders who don't delegate have more turnover than those who empower their employees. So this is ProfitSense signing off. If you want to keep up with the latest in pro business news, follow us on social media for the latest stories. If you want to listen to future ProfitSense podcasts, you can find us on ProfitSenseRadio.com. This is ProfitSense with Bill McDermott signing off. Make it a great day.